workers, just wandered around.
Can we talk about Izzy Stone for a minute?
A what?
Izzy Stone?
I can't hear.
Izzy Stone.
Izzy Stone, yes. At one point, Art got a job as a copy boy on the newspaper, not PM, The Compass. The Compass was the successor to PM, which was a very famous World War I newspaper which did not accept advertising. It was sponsored by Marshall Fields, the department store heir, and featured wonderful commentary by Stone and a whole bunch of other people. When the war ended, Marshall Field didn't feel the need to subscribe to it anymore, and Ted Thackeray, who had been married to the heiress of the Schiff banking fortune and owned the New York Post and made her husband the publisher and the editor, that got divorced, and he then raised money to open up his own newspaper, which also did not have any advertising, but not because it had a principle. Nobody advertised. Very small circulation, but it had Izzy Stone, wonderful sports commentary by the guy who had been the sports editor of the Herald Tribune. Other than that, all the news gathering was done by tuning into the radio and copying what the radio said and then putting it on the front page of the paper. And Art started out as a copy boy, but he was very interested in research, and he would read 16 papers and clip newspaper and put them together and make a story out of it. And he would present that to I.F. Stone, who would use it. So he was like I.F. Stone's researcher. And he got me the job as a copy boy, and I got promoted as a reporter, and we were ecstatic. We had a wonderful time, and then the paper closed. There was no readership. And I decided that this was the height of McCarthy era, that America was doomed to go fascist, and that I would never get a job in a newspaper again. So I decided that one of the places to hide was in medicine, but nobody wanted to bother. So I took another year and a half of pre-med at Brooklyn College and took the test and got into medical school. And Art went on. In that period, both of us were trying to figure out how do we support ourselves. And at one point, Art started, whatever it was, we said, Pete Seeger had just been in the Weavers, so it's a well-known name. We knew that there was a theater, the Circle in the Square, which had about 140 seats. So at midnight, we presented Pete Seeger at midnight at 140 seats. 3,000 people showed up at midnight. And Art and I said, we maybe got something there.
Now, what year was this? Do you remember? 55?
No, before.
Oh.
52, 53. And Art, and in partner, we started, and with Larry Moyer, you don't know Larry Moyer, a very interesting, funny character, who was a friend. We started to promote concerts of ex-Larry, Josh White, name people.
Larry Adler.
A whole bunch of...
And then you guys did a bunch of Jamaican Calypso.
at Carnegie. 2 years of Friday and Saturday and Sunday in the small Carnegie Recital Hall. Spectacular success. And Art started to represent Carlos Montoya, and we started to produce Mahalia Jackson and a whole bunch of people like that. And we had an office in the Midtown, and we were doing fine. I went to medical school. In the last year of medical school, Phil Rose asked us, Art was representing all kinds of talent, and I was being friends with Bob Nemiroff, and Bob was working for Phil Rose. And Phil Rose tried to branch out of his black music, and he had a young guy named Vince Martin, a very good-looking young guy. And he said, I'd like to make a record with him, see if Art has any talent. So Art produced the Terriers, Alan Arkin, Eric Darling, and another guy as the backup with Vince Martin. And then Bob and I were asked to write material because Vince Martin had no repertoire. So we wrote Cindy O Cindy. And I'm driving in New England, I'm not sure why. I turn on the radio and Cindy O Cindy is on the radio. I almost went off the road. And that money, Art and I talked about it, said, why are we renting halls? Let's establish a place where we don't have to pay rent. So we went to the village that we knew. Both of us had gone to NYU. And there was this single occupancy hotel which had bums living in it all the way. And they had one bathroom to a floor, so the guys had bottles where they pissed in and they threw it out the window, and it would crash on Bleecker Street. And it was not a place where anybody went. We were able to get the basement, which had been the laundry for this big place, with a back door on Thompson Street and a gate. That was the gate. And we spent my last year of medical school, I took a 6-month hiatus, and the two of us tore out tons of laundry equipment and used the money to set the village gate open, and that was the village gate.
Can we backtrack a little bit? 'Cause
Yes.
you were telling me a story, and you can tell me what year this was, but before all this happened, you were looking for business ideas. You told me something about you tried to open a coffee house in Boston.
Yes.
You tried to convince this woman,
Yes.
and she almost went for it. Anyway, tell me the
No.
story, because I like this
I will
story.
tell you the story. We were probing for something to do, which was before we were producing the concert. And suddenly, the coffee house, the famous one, the Italian one, the first one, the
Cafe Chino or
no,
San Remo or Sangriai?
not the coffee shop up on Thompson Street. It's still there. It's whatever it is. Opened up, and it was an amazing success. Coffee was 5 cents, and they were charging 25 cents, and people would go in there. It was unbelievable. 5 times the value. And another coffee shop also opened, and that was doing good on Thompson Street. So we said, the New York market is surfeited with these two places. That's how smart we were. And Art had a girlfriend in Boston. So we went to Boston, And we started to walk around Boston, making note of all the corners in Cambridge that made a possible place. We had about 12 to 15 locations, and when we compared the telephone numbers, they all led to one place. So we called, and it was Bertha Cohen Realty, and she invited us to meet us at her office, which turned out to be in the basement of an apartment house where they stored the carriages, and we went back into there, and there was an office with a lady in black crinoline, high button shoes, pince-nez, with the comb. And we said, "You own all those stores?" And she said, "Yeah." And he said, "What is it you guys are looking for?" We're not going to give away our secret. So we kind of played and played. Finally, she aced it out of us. She said, "Coffee for 25 cents? Are you crazy? No, forget it." But they look like two bright Jewish kids. I have a store. I'm willing to back you in a delicatessen, a Jewish delicatessen on Commonwealth Avenue. Wow! The story behind that was that she had been the landlady for the best Jewish delicatessen, the Midget, on Commonwealth Avenue. He was tired of being screwed by her, so he bought a place and moved out. And she would not back 25-cent coffee, but she would put up $50,000, $60,000 for two Jewish kids to open up a competitive delicatessen to undercut the Midget. We didn't want to do that Jewish delicatessen, so we went back to New York.
Great. So how did you and Bob Nemiroff get together with Oscar Brown Jr.?
Politics. We were the same age.
How did you get together with Oscar Brown Jr.?
With who?
Oscar Brown Jr.
After we had written the song